You're listening to Show Talk with Angela Butler today to interview Mr. Sid Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy works in boxing. He first started out with Miss. He first one not. I'm not gonna say he first started out. That may be incorrect because I have not interviewed him. But I know he worked with Mr. Mike Tyson and Mr. Don King. How are you doing this afternoon, Mr. Kennedy?
Oh, I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Welcome to Show Talk with Angela Butler.
Thank you.
Yes, I have wanted to interview you for a long while now.
Uh-huh.
You put me off with Miss Cookman, Miss Bethune-Cookman, and I said, it's really him I want to interview.
Yes, we'll try to get that interview with Miss Dr. Evelyn Bethune soon. I'll call her and find out what her timetable is. But yes, yeah, I'm happy to do the interview with you this afternoon.
Okay, we are recording.
Okay.
All right. So, how did you get your start in boxing?
Well, actually, as a youth, I spent time in the boxing gyms around Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm from. And I got interested in start boxing as an amateur, and there were a lot of great champions and good fighters that came from, my neighborhood. And, I, just started staying with it and fighting in tournaments. And we had great champions like Aaron Pryor and Tony Tubbs come from the neighborhood. And, got a lot of national recognition and acclaim. And then after many years in the concert industry, I switched over to sports and entertainment PR, and I 96, shortly after the Olympics came to Atlanta, Georgia. And from there, I was working, with all the fights. Mike Tyson, for one, was one of our fighters, as well as Evander Holyfield and, Felix Trinidad and a lot of other notables, just to name a few. And we would have fights in Vegas and Atlantic City, and I would commute from Atlanta to wherever the fights were. And my job entailed PR, public relations, meaning that I would credential all the mass media, international and domestic and foreign press. Everybody from the HBO, Showtime network, the journalists, photographers, and sports writers. I would be responsible for credentialing them into the fight. The New York Daily News, the LA Times, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Chicago Tribune, all the major newspapers and sports writers that wanted to come and cover the fight. I would give them their credentials, along with other national magazines like Sports Illustrated and the Ring magazine. I'd be responsible for credentialing all the mass media, doing the weigh-ins before the fight and the pre-fight press conference and the post-fight press conference. All the media outlets and correspondence with the press and everything. I would be responsible for, like I said, credentialing them and to conduct the publicity, I guess you could call it additions, to the fight, in terms of, like I said, the press conferences and, things like that. And all the advertising on the internet, as well as print media as well. And so we have fights all over the world, Vegas, Atlanta here, Atlantic City, New York. And if you look at some of the fights on HBO or Showtime, you will see me walking from the dressing room to the ring, with the fighters. I've, been seen on television many times. And that's basically, what I do from a PR perspective. All the internet boxing sources, I correspond with them and to let them know the progress of how the fight promotions are coming along, how the fighters are looking in camp, when we're going to schedule the press conferences, the media workouts. Sometimes, we have big fights like, Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis. We have like a 15 to 20 city tour where we hit all the major markets like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Houston, Atlanta, Miami, D.C., Chicago, New York. We hit all the big major markets, to promote interest of the fight. And, that certainly helps boost ticket sales and things of that sort. So that's pretty much what my job entails.
Your job entails media and weighing people in. So what is the current fighters that you are working with?
The current fighters that we have right now today is a kid out of Cincinnati. My name is Adrian Bronner. We just signed him. And I also work for other various promoters and, media outlets, Showtime, which is getting out of boxing the first of the year. They are following the lead of HBO. It's such a situation now where streaming has taken over the cable industry, the television industry as well, and the numbers, the pay-per-view numbers are not as high as it used to be. So to cut losses, HBO and Showtime have elected to leave boxing. So we're looking at going with ESPN or Amazon Prime to televise our fights in the future. And the fighters that we have today, are from the lightweight division, which is the most talented division in boxing now, with names like Gervonta Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, I should say, and on to the welterweights, we had Terrence Bud Crawford, who had a sensational knockout of Earl Spence earlier last year. And we have, Canelo Alvarez, who is the super middleweight, light heavyweight champion. David Benavidez. And in the heavyweight division, we have the Deontay Wilders, the Tyson Furies, and the Anthony Joshuas. And so, boxing is pretty much, still, kind of lukewarm, but it still has a lot of attractive matchups and big fights for 2024 that we're looking forward to.
Oh, okay. That is great. That is great. So you have an impressive career. Okay. Man. You obviously are very intelligent. So what advice would you give to young boxers who want to box, young men who want to get into the boxing arena, or even women who want to get into the boxing arena? What advice would you give them?
I would give them, like I have many times, the same advice that I give these aspiring youth that want to get into the music business, that want to get into rap and hip hop and, the music industry. I tell the fighters, like, for example, I had this one principal of a high school tell me that she has a student that does not come to class often or doesn't do his homework assignments like he should because he's spending so much time at the boxing gym. And his mother rather, is not supportive of him going. She's not supportive of him, going to school and, really sticking to his academics because she feels like, boxing is his dream and that's what he should concentrate most on, and feeling like the school and, his homework and his classwork is getting in the way of that, And I told them that his education comes first, because boxing is a business, just like the music industry. That's a business. It's 90% corporate and 10% music, And what these young people have to understand, these young African American people have to understand that boxing and football and music and hip hop and all those sports and entertainment type of career choices are not something that you can do forever. You have to prepare yourself for life after boxing, because going to the beginning, it's hard enough for a fighter to train for a fight and go to college too, because it didn't work for me. It can be done, but it is very difficult for you to train for a fight and go to college too, because the time constraints are very limited. You trying to train for a fight, but then you have a exam at 9:00 in the morning. It's just very difficult to do that. So it has to be one or the other, And so you should take this time when you're in high school to get as much education as you can so that when it's time to negotiate your contract with a Don King or a Golden Boy or a Al Heyman, you and your lawyer, can be on the same page, or you or their lawyers can be on the same page when it comes to negotiating your contract, because $1 million is not a lot of money in the fight game. Because out of that $1 million, after you get, well, first of all, the promoter is going to get his cut off the top. Then you have to deal with Uncle Sam, the tax man, and that's a big chunk. And then you have your sanctioning fees that you have to pay, the WBA, the WBC, whoever you have a title with. You have to pay your sanctioning fees to keep that organization going. Whatever belt you got to pay a sanctioning, what they call a sanctioning fee. And then you pay the state taxes. Say you fight in Las Vegas, you have to pay Nevada state taxes. And then you pay your trainer, your manager, your cut man, and hopefully you don't have 1 billion folks in your entourage, because you got to pay everybody from the boy carrying your bag, the boy carrying your spit bucket, and all your cheerleaders and stuff, if you got a big entourage, you taking everybody out to dinner and on a cruise to the Bahamas and all that. I'm just saying monetary mistakes that fighters have made in the past, But after you pay your manager, your trainer, your cut man, your advisor, your lawyer, out of $1 million, you might walk away with about 200,000. And, after you done bought Bentleys and Corvettes and big fine homes and, spend a lot of money on your homeboys and all that, that money is going to diminish after a short period of time. So you really check chasing. You really working to pay bills again because, like I said, $1 million is not a lot of money in the fight game. And what I would tell these young boys, young ladies, coming up in boxing that's aspiring to be a fighter, understand the business aspect of it. Because if your accountant can count and you can't count, you gonna be broke.
That's right. That's
You know,
right. Good thing you're
and
telling them.
yeah, and another thing, boxing is not something that you can do forever. Life after boxing. I work with an organization called Ring 10, and what we do is we raise money to help fighters in need. We don't get a lot of support like we should because the average person has no sympathy for a guy that has made $1 million or more when they will never see that kind of money in their lifetime. So people are less reluctant to give and help ex-millionaires when they can't rub two nickels together. This is the kind of world that we live in. That's why I tell these young folks, get an education, manage your money wisely because you could lose your next fight. You can suffer a career-ending injury like a detached retina or a brain injury. Fighters put their lives on the line every time they step in that ring, and who knows, with the snap of a finger, you may no longer be able to box again. How do you know you're going to win your next fight? And after too many losses, you're not going to be able to make, any more money, So you have to go back in the real world and get a regular job. It's like, what do you have to fall back on when your boxing career is over? That's where education comes in, and, not to mention the foolish, lavish spending that you might do. A lot of time you take care of, your brothers and sisters and 100 aunts and uncles and 500 cousins and your homeboys and, trying to take care of the whole hood, buying everybody Cadillacs, going to these casinos, gambling, and just, spending a whole lot of money excessively. There's going to come a time, you do that, and then you'll be coming to organizations like mine, Ring 10, needing help to pay your rent, or to get groceries and all these other things that we do for fighters that are financially strapped after they done made so much money, with foolish spending, with promoters and managers taking advantage of them. A manager's cut of your purse is 33 and 1/3%. That's what you pay your manager after every fight. A manager gets 33 and 1/3% of your money. That's what you pay your manager.
That's what attorneys get in Florida.
I'm sorry.
That's what attorneys get in Florida, Mr. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. Yeah. And some of them, depending on how stupid you are, will take more than that. Hidden costs, just like, Don King. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything he says or everything he does, but Don will take, exorbitant amounts of money, out your check, expense-wise, he, along with a lot of promoters, they will take back everything they gave you from the hotel room to the last Coca-Cola you drank. Don King one time charged Mike Tyson $800 for some washcloths and towels. I mean, it's just ridiculous, you know, how, if you're not smart enough to read these clauses in your contract, then, you could be swindled out of all kinds of money. You get a gift.
That's a lot
for
of
Christmas.
money. That's
Yeah,
a
you
lot
get it.
to be spent out of some washcloths and towels.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, you will get a gift, for your birthday or for Christmas or for winning the world title. Say, for example, you win the heavyweight championship and, the promoter gives you a brand new Porsche, okay? Or a Bentley, you know, that $300,000 for that Bentley is coming back out your check. I mean, I'm just telling you examples of the dirty stuff that these promoters and these record company people do. You look at your check like, what happened to the? I'm $300,000 short on my money. What's up? Well, that canary yellow Ferrari sitting in your driveway that you got for Christmas is coming out your check. And you thought that was your Christmas present.
You thought that was your Christmas present. Why
Yeah.
would you buy them that with their money without asking them?
Well, it's a gift. It's a gift. It's like, Angela, you fight for me, and for you winning the championship, I'm going to reward you with this brand new Porsche automobile, And then the next fight or so, you look at your bank statement and be like, I'm like $100,000 short, with my pay. Well, Angela, you know that red Porsche that you got for winning the championship? That's coming out your check.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Deontay Wilder, they seem like they did well.
Floyd had careful management. I don't believe that Floyd fought the best fighters at the right time, but it was due to his managers protecting him and guiding his career very carefully. When I say that I don't believe he fought the best fighters at the right time, I mean, Manny Pacquiao, it took them 5 years for that fight to be made. They were, fussing about drug testing and money and gate receipts, pay-per-view and all these things that management is supposed to deal with. That's their job. But, I mean, years ago, if you go back to the days of Joe Louis and Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler and even Oscar De La Hoya, those guys, drug issues and, drug testing and all these things were never an issue. They just signed the contract and got in the ring.
I cannot hear you, sir. I cannot hear you, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, I think call might have dropped or something, but
Call might have dropped. Yes, sir. I could not hear you. Hi, everyone. Mr. Kennedy is back.
yeah, and it's like drug testing and review numbers and, gate receipts and money issue for negotiating a fight. But all this closed circuit TV business and pay-per-view and drug tested was never an issue when guys like Ali and Frazier and Foreman and, Leonard Hagler, Hearn, Duran, De La Hoya, when those guys fought, that was never an issue. All they did was sign the contract, get in the ring, and fight and give the fans what they want to see. Mayweather, he did that, but there, were aspects of his career when he could have fought the better fighters, at the right time. But everybody wants to protect their record. They don't want a loss on their record. They don't want to take risky. Everybody's mentality is maximum dollar for minimum risk. And that's why that you're not really seeing the best fights that can be made, because everybody wants to be a businessman. Everybody wants to come to the table or wants the lion's share of the money and wants to be the A side when it comes to negotiations.
All right. Okay. I cannot hear you, Mr. Kennedy. I don't know what's going on. What's going on with your phone, Mr. Kennedy?
I don't know why these calls keep dropping. But
okay.
Everybody wants to be the A side, when it can call all the shots, and that's why some of the best fights that could be made don't get made. Everybody's egos get in the way. And Floyd, was carefully managed, but he didn't always fight the best fighters at the right time.
Okay. All right. I understand that. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Sid Kennedy. So what about Mr. Deontay Wilder?
Deontay, I like. Deontay just lost last month. He's coming off a loss. He says that, he'll be back. He's not finished. Deontay, as a fighter, has a lot of things that he needs to learn and work on. Learn how to box better, learn how to position his foot, his feet, his body. His footwork needs to improve, and he can't always rely on the big bomb. You have to have other skills to go along with that. You can't just depend on knocking everybody out, And there's a lot of technical aspects to Deontay's fighting that he needs a trainer to teach him and needs to work on, and he needs to respect and listen to his trainer. He can't have 500 homeboys in the jail doing this for him and that for him and telling him how to fight and telling him what to do and all that. They're in his ear more than his trainer is. And that's the problem with Deontay Wilder.
His homeboys are telling him how to fight. Okay. All right. So I would love to interview Mr. Deontay Wilder. I'm impressed by that young man. I read that he dropped out of college to train for professional boxing. So he paid for his child's surgery. And ever since I read that, I was very impressed because my brother is an attorney. He's a criminal defense attorney. And I was very impressed that he gave up his education to pay for surgery for his child.
Yeah, that's all he basically wanted to do. He was driving a Budweiser beer truck. And, after a long time doing that, not making much money, his child needed surgery, for a health defect. And so he turned to boxing, to to raise money, for his daughter's surgery and, to help support his family, to help his family, and, he got a pretty nice career out of it. He got a good career out of that. So, I applaud Deontay, for that, his family, his kids, and looking out for their well-being like a father is supposed to. He's still with his wife and his family is intact and everything. I wish him the best. And, there's been rumors that, he's thinking about packing it in. He's got enough money. He's earned it throughout his career $100 million. So, that's enough money to, sustain himself and his family. And he could ride off into the sunset and reinvent himself and do other things and do something else. But I hope Deontay does come back because, he's very entertaining as a fighter and fun to watch.
Okay. All right. So did you ever box?
I did as an amateur.
Okay, you did box. All right. Was it heavyweight or lightweight?
I, believe it or not, started out as a lightweight. I was a 130-pounder.
Lightweight. Okay.
Yeah, I was a 130-pounder, 12-year-old kid, and I was a lightweight, and, I had a few amateur fights, and, then it just came a point where I had to pick and choose what I wanted to do. I had to, decide. I was also, in the music. I played in the band in high school, and, I've been on concert tours with, just about every artist you can imagine now. So, I had to decide between music and boxing, because academics in school came first.
Who all did you work with in music?
I'm sorry?
Who all did you work with in music?
Oh, in music, I worked with everybody from Luther Vandross to Patti LaBelle, Anita Baker, Cameo SOS Band, Midnight Star, Bootsy Collins, Parliament Funkadelic, Babyface, Roger Troutman, Lakeside. I've worked with them all.
What capacity did you work with them in?
I worked in the concert business. My first summer job was the Ohio Valley Cool Jazz Festival, as it was called back in those days. Now they just call it the Cincinnati Music Festival. But back then, my job, my dad was in radio, so one of the promoters called the house looking for him, and he wasn't home. So I answered the phone. And he asked me how old I was. I was 14 at the time. And then he asked me, why would I like to come and work the jazz festival? And I was like, sure. And I went down there, and my, soap, towels, toothpaste, food, make sure the caterers had everything, and everybody had it what they need in their dressing rooms. And I go back to, my first tour, was, Luther Vandross, and, I make sure he had his Kentucky Fried Chicken and, woke everybody up when it was time to get on the bus and go to the next city, call everybody's hotel room, make sure they're up and ready for luggage call and get to the next city, and I started off doing that, and I worked my way up to production manager. I remember when New Edition and Bobby Brown were wearing underoos, so artists and, one story after another. Charlie Wilson and the Gap Band, and, I've worked with them all.
I got to go to a New Edition concert, and I got to be an extra in Mr. Bobby Brown's film, and I worked as an extra on Greenleaf there with Miss Oprah Winfrey show there in Atlanta.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry also, and Medea Goes to Jail.
Mhm.
I've worked as extra for. I did extra up into to coronavirus.
Mhm.
I was in acting in 2006, and I started my radio show in 2010. So
Mhm.
interviewing for a while. Last
So.
I was in was divorce court, and I
Mhm.
was audience member in 7 episodes there in Atlanta. They
Mhm.
did it video during COVID
Mhm.
through video computers.
Oh.
I was in 7 episodes. You can see me real good. In
Mhm.
2021, I haven't been anything since then. They just sent me an email to come to Atlanta in 2 hours to act, but I'm not going to make it there in 2 hours because I'm 4 hours away.
Mhm. Now, what part of Florida are you in?
I'm near Panama City Beach, Florida. Dothan,
Oh.
I'm on Central Standard Time. I'm near Dothan, Alabama.
Mhm.
Closer
Okay.
to Dothan, Alabama than I am Panama City Beach, Florida. In Fort Walton, Florida, I'm closer to Dothan.
Okay. Close to Dothan, Alabama, because I noticed that um Pensacola is down there by
Wow.
Mobile.
Pensacola is 2.5 hours from me.
Mhm. So a lot of good fighters come out of Pensacola.
Dothan, Alabama is 30 minutes from me. Panama City Beach, Florida is an hour from me.
Mhm. So a lot of good fighters come out of Pensacola. Roy Jones and um, Derek Smoke Gaynor, and a lot of good fighters come out of Pensacola. Yes.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it is. So, how are you related to the Bethune-Cookman, Miss Bethune and them? Miss Bethune.
Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune and my great grandmother were first cousins. Um, Aunt Mary, as I call her, she, of course, you know the story behind her founding Bethune-Cookman College with
Yes.
just $1.50
Yes.
on a landfill.
Yes.
And throughout her tenure as an educator and developing young women into prosperous people throughout their career choices. She was also the founder of the organization United Council of Negro Women. And they were like the NAACP for women, you know, in the southern region. She was an advisor to 4 U.S. presidents: Truman, Eisenhower, Roosevelt, Hoover, you know, and in fact, she would always be.
I cannot hear you, sir. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, Mr. Kennedy. All right,
She
top.
she was a advisor to 4 U.S. presidents, and her and the Roosevelts were very close. You know, in fact, she would always have an open invitation to come to the White House and, you know, hang out with Eleanor Roosevelt, you know, who was FDR's wife. And, you know, the Roosevelt family to this day speak very highly of Aunt Mary. Curtis Roosevelt, who was the son of FDR and Eleanor, had a book signing a couple of years ago here in Atlanta that I attended, and he talked about how, Aunt Mary was very vital in, his growing up and was a great asset to his family.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Distinguished man, distinguished family. Distinguished family. Mr. Kennedy, well, I know you don't have a lot of time left. I hope to talk to you after the call. If not, I thank you for coming on Show Talk with Angela Butler, sir. You have a distinguished career, a distinguished family, a prominent man yourself. And I've enjoyed interviewing you. I've been after an interview with you for over a year now.
Yeah.
I hope your brother gets better. I'm glad he's got better. I hope your family stays blessed. Your brother, I hope he stays healthy and blessed. And you too, and your entire family.
Thank you so much. We appreciate, your prayers and, and your concern, for our families, especially, my, younger brother who suffered a massive heart attack back in May, and he's been blessed, to be able to function again like his old self. He's up driving and running errands, and they even went to New York for the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, and, he's back to his old self again. So that is a miracle, and a blessing as well, to come from something like that and be back to your old self again, So with that being said, I encourage everyone to let a lot of stress and anxiety go, because that is a health hazard itself. Don't go through life worrying and grieving over the loss of a loved one, or letting people on the job piss you off and dealing with stress factors and that kind of thing. Kind of eliminate all that if you can. And that is the key to living a healthier life, watching your diet, certain things that you love eating and drinking, at a point as you get older, you have to let some of that stuff go, but that's, one of the keys to staying healthy,
Yes,
living
sir.
stress-free.
Yes, sir.
And keeping God in your life.
I'm a diabetic, and I have high blood pressure, so I understand what you're saying. I have that disease, GERD. GERD, gastro, the erosion of the stomach.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have that. I have diabetes also and high blood pressure.
Yeah, so you have to take some serious lifestyle changes.
Yes, I have. I'm losing weight again. Doing good. I'm doing pretty good now.
Mm-hmm.
Doing pretty good. Just need to lose more weight.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm doing good.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for coming on Show Talk with Angela Butler.
Okay, my pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, we will. We will do this again soon. I have enjoyed interviewing. I look forward to hopefully interviewing your cousin, Miss Bethune.
Absolutely, and now see what her availability is.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.